Love you. Bye. Good morning.
What'd you do? Exactly.
Chris, you're on my live.
Oh shit.
Did y'all see Chris? Oh my God, that made me laugh. Y'all take your Celtic salt. Chris is having a bad day. That made me laugh so hard. Take your Celtic salt. Put on your watch. Ugh. Take a sip of vodka because that salt is salty. Chris is so funny. Chris is in the basement. Okay. Hang on just a second. I'm pulling up my Bible app. I don't really do that, but when I went to it, it made me update my app this morning, so it was I need my real Bible. You know the love chapter in the Bible? Is it 1 Corinthians or 2 Corinthians? I thought it was 1 Corinthians, but maybe it's 2 Corinthians. Do y'all know? I wanted to. Dadgummit. I need my real Bible, but I know I'm not going to be able to see it. Okay, let me give you a couple of updates. I need to take my glasses off. Wait, what'd you say? Second. I thought it was first, but I was looking up 2 Corinthians, but do you remember the... Oh, gosh. Is it... I should have done this before, but Chris was talking to me and he was distracting me. Because he's so funny. I'm going to stop. I'm taking my glasses off. I have a black eye. And I have no clue why I have a black eye. Shane was like, did you get hit? See it? So if you see that I have a black eye, you're correct. And I have no clue. I don't remember getting hit in the eye. I don't really know what happened. I thought maybe it was from straining, picking up something heavy, but I don't know if that can... I would think if you were straining, it would do it inside your eye. So I don't really know why I have a black eye. Maybe Shane hit me in the middle of the night. I'm not sure. Okay, couple of updates. Last Monday is when I found out that Larry's car was damaged. Today is Wednesday of the next week. I've heard nothing. Nothing from my lawyer. I have left messages. I have emailed. I'm assuming, because, lawyers are busy. They have court and they have stuff like other clients. So I'm assuming the reason I haven't heard anything is because my lawyer probably hasn't heard back from Toyota. So I don't have any updates on Toyota. The bottom line is Toyota has a paid off car. They have all my money and they have the car. I have the title and no car. So if it continues much longer, Judy's going to report the car stolen because now I have literally paid off the car. They have all my money. They have a damaged car. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't do that. I may just be talking out of my butt. But anyway, I'm a bit frustrated when it comes to this whole Toyota crap. So I wanted to give you that update. Another update. No, it's not an update. It's new news. But I debated whether to tell y'all or not. But, you know, I always tell y'all that my channel is it's never staged. It's never made up. I don't create content for necessarily views. It's what's really happening in my life. So like when you see me, like for example, this coming Thursday, my video, I was out there filming and I hear and I'm like, what is that noise? And when I film, it is not staged. It is really what's happening. I don't know if y'all know that or not, but it's literally like, I don't know what the noise is coming from. Shane's in his shop. I have no idea what he's doing. I'm walking in there with y'all and we're both surprised at what he's doing. Okay. It's not like I know what he's doing and I'm like, oh, let's film this. It'll be good content. No, that is not Judy. Judy is raw and real. So when I was thinking about me being raw and real, you know, you guys put a lot of trust in me and my channel. You're here diligently every Monday and Wednesday morning at 7:00. And I feel like I should be truthful with y'all. So, I can't remember what today's Wednesday. So Monday, last week, I had a mammogram. Okay. And to make a long story short, they called me and they had found something and I have to have further testing. So I'm assuming I'll probably get the call today. They want to do they want to do an ultrasound and a compression test. I don't know what that is. To be honest, when they called me, I was on the phone with my mother-in-law and I said, wait a minute, my doctor's office is calling me. I need to call you back. So when they called me and told me that, I wasn't expecting it. And I just sat there in kind of shock, like, what? You know, me? And so I didn't ask any questions because I was kind of thrown off guard when they called and told me that. Like, I was like, this has never happened to me. So I don't have a lot of details and I decided not to call because it's going to stir up worry. And I'm just going to call today and say, did you get me scheduled? I am going to do that. But I'm not going to call and ask a bunch of questions because I know that nobody knows the answers because I have to have further testing before there's an answer. So I'm not scared. I'm not worried. To be honest with you, and I think I've told y'all some of this, but I've had 3 or 4 breast surgeries in my life. When I was 29, this is the funniest thing. When I was 29, I'd already had both of my kids and I knew I wasn't going to have any more kids. And I I taught aerobics and saved my money to get a boob job. Yeah, it was important to me when I was 29. So I got a boob job and within no time, the implant came out from behind my muscle. And you don't really save up for a second surgery. You think the first surgery is going to work, right? Well, I ended up having to have my implant was on the side of my body. Well, I had to have surgery to put the implant back in place. So that was my second surgery. Within no time, it came out again. Okay. And when this happens, your insurance does not pay for it. Well, I'm 29 years old with 2 babies. I didn't plan for a disaster. I thought I'll save up my money for a boob job and that would be it. Well, So it came out again. Well, I didn't have the money to put it back in because I'd already had that. I can't remember how much it cost back then, but I'm sure it wasn't as much as it is today. But I'm going to say it was a couple of $1,000s for each surgery. Well, I was broke as a joke in my 20s, right? And I had 2 kids that had doctor copays and crap. So I didn't have the money to have the third surgery. So I just left the implant on the side of my body. Well, to make a long story short, that caused my boob to get infected, the tissue inside my breast. So I had to go to surgery. I ended up having to have emergency surgery that my insurance wouldn't cover because it came from my implants. Yeah. And so I remember that the doctor said you have to pay for all this up front. And I remember I didn't have the money to pay for it all up front. And I had to beg the doctor to let me pay payments. Well, the plastic surgeon went in there, and then I had to have I think it was a OB surgeon go in there too. My insurance did cover the OB surgeon, but 2 surgeons were in because the OB's not the OB, that's pregnancy. Whatever he is, the surgeon had to go in there and clean out my breast tissue that was infected. And then I had to go in and I said, "Take those dang implants out of me." So he took them out, and then the other doctor took out all the infected breast tissue. So that was my third surgery. Well, needless to say, Judy looked like an 80-year-old woman with the most saggiest boobs you've ever seen in your life. So you can imagine implants, and then there's just the implants are taken out, and they're to my toenails. Okay. It was disgusting. And I was so depressed about my breasts. And I was like, this is not what I expected. So I saved up my money and I went and had a lift. And I remember when I had the lift, I had drains that I had to use that I can't remember how long the drains were in there, but I've had a disaster when it's come to my breast, and it was all self-induced from implants. Okay. So I've had 4 breast surgeries. So it wouldn't surprise me if it was something due to that. Now that was 100 years ago. Okay. Maybe not 100, but I was 29 when I had the first surgery. So I don't feel like I'm at peace no matter what happens. I'm at peace. The biggest thing that I kind of did with myself, which I think is kind of normal, but I was like, the first thing I thought of was, oh my gosh, if this is cancer, I have to go to I don't remember how many libraries in June. What am I going to do? I thought about that. And then I was like, wait a minute. If I get sick, who's going to take care of my farm? Shane has to go to work. I thought about that. And then I was like, oh no, what's going to happen to Larry? I did think about that. And then I said, stop and pause. I got my preaching stick out and I said, Judy, stop and pause. Take a breath. Go to the creek and get your crap straight. And so I did. And I was like, you know what? At the end of the day, I can't control what is inside this body. I can't. It is what it is. But the things that I can control is asking people to pray for me and being truthful and at the end of the day, it is what it is. So there's no sense in me letting this rob me of my joy because I don't have any facts. Remember how I tell you that when you go through something like worry and anxiety, you need to stop, you need to pause and check the facts. What are the facts? Well, there's no sense in worrying about something that hasn't even been diagnosed. It could be scar tissue. It could be a cyst. It could be anything. So there's no sense in me sitting here getting myself worked up when I have no facts. So I'm okay. I think Shane's having a little bit of a hard time about it. He's being really nice to me lately. It's like, it took this for you to be nice to me, but I'm okay. I am okay. I'm not in left field with this at all. As a matter of fact, I really hadn't put a lot of thought into it. I have too much other stuff to worry about. But I do ask you to remember me in prayer because it is a little scary, but women live all day long with breast cancer. As a matter of fact, if you are a breast cancer survivor, will you put a pink heart in the comments? Seeing pink hearts in the comments give me peace of mind and other people peace of mind that there are so many cancer survivors out there. So if you are a cancer survivor, put a pink heart. And let us love on you a little bit because I know that you guys have been through a lot with cancer and you are a survivor and you have probably been through heck and I'm proud of you for being here today and being so strong. And I'm pretty sure if you are a breast cancer survivor, you have a testimony that you can share to other people that are going through it. And I feel very loved knowing that I have you backup dancers that have been through what I've been through. You know, I open up and tell you what I'm going through, but this time there's many of you that have been through it too. So it feels good to me to know that I'm not alone. And when I tell you things about me, I hope you know that you're not alone. So, to all the cancer survivors of breast cancer, you guys are the bomb. Okay, moving on. Today, I titled my live, can't remember my exact words, but something about, what did I say? That I've never loved until I loved Shane, basically. And I want to talk about that. Grab your vodka. You're going to need it. All right. Us kids, we're grown up watching Disney movies, right? Men and women. Men watch, Romeo and girls watch Juliet. And we kind of have this wrong fairy tale of what a marriage looks like or what a boyfriend looks like. We live in this fairy tale because every single one of us were brought up watching Cinderella and watching Barbie and Ken. We had the Barbie and Ken dolls, and Ken was this had this perfect figure with a six pack on his stomach, and every man probably thought, you know, I need to look like Ken. And every woman that, thought we had to have this hourglass body like Barbie because that's what we played with. Cinderella, the prince comes and finds Cinderella's slipper. And, if you really thought about, let's just say Cinderella, well, was she a maid? She was the ugly sister, and she was a maid, and she was just, I remember her scrubbing the floors, and she had on this dress that wasn't so pretty. And like, then all of a sudden, you know uh the prince comes and he puts he tries the slipper on all the uh sisters, and the slipper doesn't fit. And then he tries it on Cinderella, and wow, the slipper fits. And then suddenly Cinderella is in this gorgeous dress, and Prince Charming comes and rescues her, and they live happily ever after. And you see little birds flying everywhere, and everything is so perfect. As a child growing up, there's a misconception of what a girlfriend looks like, or what a boyfriend looks like, or husband looks like. There's a misconception of it. And I know for me, I think growing up with divorced parents, my mother always taught me never depend on a man, because my mother was not Cinderella. My mother got hurt by my dad. My dad cheated on her, left her. My dad was an alcoholic. Uh, my mom went from being a stay-at-home mom to a working mom. Us kids were like, "Where's mom?" We're thrown in daycare, after school care. We don't know. We don't understand. Where'd mom go? It was just not good. So when I grew up and saw these Disney movies of what a relationship looked like, it was very confusing when I watched my parents go through this divorce, because as a child, you don't watch Disney movies about families getting divorced. You don't watch Disney movies about blended families. You don't really know what a step parent is in a Disney movie. That they don't talk about that. So like, there's just this misconception of what real life is about. And I think that, what's his name, Walt, that created those, not that blended families and all that, divorce was not happening back then, but I don't think it was like it is today. But then again, I could be wrong. It probably was. Like when you read the Bible and you read about, things that happen in the Bible, you're like, well, crap, it was a train wreck even back in the Bible days. Like, but if you don't read the Bible, you don't know that, back in the day, the first, wasn't it the first child? No, let's talk about like, I'm getting confused. You know how back in times, back in the Old Testament, like, am I thinking about something different? But you know how, like, or is this like, I think I'm thinking about the Chinese. Because, I have a niece and a nephew that are China, that came from China. And in China, they can only have, I think this is right, only one boy. And then if there's something wrong with the child, they can't keep it. They put it in an orphanage, which is where my niece and nephew came from. So, like, there's all these different rules and regulations and beliefs. And so, like, it's just like distorted. Like, the idea I'm going to talk about myself. For me, marriage and love was distorted because of the Disney movies that I watched when I was a kid. And, I just didn't see my dad as Romeo. And I did not see my mom as Cinderella. It just didn't look like that. But I, I don't know why. If you are a woman, did you ever do this? Did you ever come up with your kids' names? Like, were you sitting in school with a notebook and you wrote down kids' names that you were going to name your children? Am I the only one that did that? I remember doing that. I remember vividly, me and my friends would get a notebook and we would write down, okay, the girl's name is going to be this. The boy's name is going to be this. I remember doing that. It's like, look at this. It's a train wreck. But I remember doing that. I remember, and I can remember, let's see, hang on. Now I done forgot the name. For the longest, I can't think of my little girl's name for some reason. I'm going brain dead for some reason. It'll come to me. But I said, my little girl is going to be named this. I already knew the name. And but I was in high school. And it wasn't that I was desiring to have a baby, because I wasn't. I just wrote down the names that I liked. And Fancy, that was her name. There was a girl in high school. Her name was Fancy. And I thought it was the coolest name ever. And I said, if I ever have a little girl, her name is going to be Fancy. I liked it. And so I don't remember my boy's name, but I was going to have this many kids. And I don't think it was 2. I think I was going to have more than 2. But as we're little, and I don't think boys do that. If you're a guy and you're watching me, I don't think y'all did stuff like that. I think that was a girl thing. I'm not really sure. But if you're a guy, did you do that? Did you name your kids? Probably not. Probably not. It's just probably a girl thing. But I remember dreaming of my wedding day. Did y'all do that? I can remember thinking about what colors I wanted. And I didn't even have a boyfriend. Okay. It was just, I remember thinking about being a princess like Cinderella and having this beautiful white dress and this veil. And I was going to have this many bridesmaids and I was going to have this many groomsmen. And I'm going to use these colors in my wedding. I remember doing that. Was I the weirdo, or did y'all do that? I mean, I don't even remember me and my friends talking about it. It's just like every girl dreams of their wedding day. I remember, okay, so I was in my 20s. I was teaching aerobics at my elementary school that I went to school at. And I was working at Blue Cross Blue Shield. And I started dating the boy down the street. I did not know him, okay, because he didn't live there our whole life. But he drove a Corvette. And I wanted to go out with him because he had a Corvette. Did y'all ever do that? You just want to go out with a guy because he had a cool car. Me too. So I started going out with him because I thought he was cool because he had a white Corvette. This guy, I had no business dating. Okay. He and I were nothing alike. As a matter of fact, I thought in my head, I thought he was someone that did drugs. He like fit the part. He drove a Corvette. He was in high school. Um, he looked like that's very judgmental, but he looked as though he did drugs. And I still went out with him because he had a Corvette. Okay. Well, at this point in life, when I first got out of high school, that's when my depression started. I started gaining a lot of weight my senior year in high school. So I wasn't very confident in myself. Okay. So I started dating him, and I was teaching aerobics. I was fairly new at teaching aerobics. And I started, losing a lot of weight because I was teaching aerobics 3 days a week and working at Blue Cross. Well, we ended up dating for like 2 or 3 years. Well, he asked me to marry him. And did I love him? At the time, I thought I did. And I remember my parents being very concerned. And I remember my mother sitting me down going, "Why are you marrying him?" And I said, I remember it to this day. I said, "He loved me when I was fat. And he held my hand to get me back to where I needed to be." See, I was jacked up about weight even back then. But that's what I told my mom. And she said, okay. And mom and I started planning our wedding. And, I had purple in my wedding, and I wore a white dress. Everything was wonderful. I had it wasn't champagne. It was, I think, some kind of grape juice, but we had a little champagne fountain. I had ice sculptures at my wedding. Mom and my mom, I don't remember if my dad paid for it. I'm going to say my mom, but she went all out for me to have this gorgeous wedding. And I remember that day was just like a fairy tale. It was like I was Cinderella, and I had the perfect day. And I remember when we got in the car to leave, and everybody throws their rice and all that stuff. Back then we threw rice. And I remember getting in the car with him and we had to go to his house to change clothes to go on our honeymoon. And I remember thinking, I can't remember if we got in a little argument, but I remember going, this is not what I thought it was going to be. Because it was like, just not good. And we get married. We bought a house. I was 22 or 23 years old. We bought my first house. And I felt like, how you have a milestone, you get married, that's exciting. And so like all the problems go away and everything's just great. And then the problems start back. And then you buy a house and everything's just great. Oh, if we could just get a house, everything will be great. And we got the house. And when we started dating, he never did drugs at all. Okay. At all. And he got a job. We lived in Birmingham, and he got a job, and he moved to Tennessee, and I had the house up for sale, and I couldn't quit my job. So I stayed in the house in Birmingham, continued to work at Blue Cross, and I was trying to get transferred to Blue Cross of Tennessee. And so he went without me. Well, to make a long story short, when he was by himself, in Tennessee, he began to start doing drugs again. And when he came home and I realized that he was doing drugs, I was like, oh no, but heck no. I am not being involved in this. And I remember thinking, this marriage sucks. Like when I was watching Cinderella, I don't remember Cinderella having to go through any of this. This is awful. This is just awful. We were married for 11 months and I decided that I couldn't do this. I'm not being in a marriage with someone that does drugs. Needless to say, shortly after we got divorced, he ended up passing away from a drug overdose. Not good. So then I move on to my Romeo number 2, right? And Romeo number 2 was a lot better than Romeo number 1 because Romeo number 2 didn't do drugs at all. As a matter of fact, his parents were still together after many, many years. They went to church every Sunday. It just looked like the Cinderella life that I thought it was going to be. Like I looked at his family. His parents were married. They go to church. They have a beautiful house. Like he's been raised right. He doesn't do drugs. And we started dating. I don't remember how long we dated, but we decided to get married. I remember I lived in an apartment by myself. And I remember moving in with my grandmother in her basement so that I could save money because I put this plan together and I said, listen, we're going to buy a house and we're going to need these items. We're going to need a refrigerator. We're going to need a washer. We're going to need a dryer. So I said, I'm going to move in with my grandmother and we're going to buy these things before we get married. That way, when we get married, everything is paid off and we have everything that we need. I was very organized and very conscious about money and so forth. He was not. But he still lived at home. And so I'm thinking this is going to be the Cinderella marriage that I dreamt of because I thought the center of this family is God. And I just envisioned being Cinderella. I did. And we got married and it was so far from Cinderella, it was not even funny. And I had a wedding again. I wore the dress. I had the white dress because it was his first marriage. I wore the white dress. I had a bunch of bridesmaids. I had the wedding. And I remember my dad walking me down the aisle. And I remember him going, I'm not doing this again. This is it. I remember him saying that. I was like, oh no, Dad, this is the forever. Like God is the center of our relationship. This is forever. I remember doing that. And I remember walking down the aisle thinking, finally met the Romeo, I'm Juliet and this is Romeo and everything is just perfect. God has brought us together. That's what I thought. But I was envisioning this perfect marriage. And we got married. We went on our honeymoon. We bought a house. We had all our stuff. I ended up getting pregnant 8 months after we got married. It was the perfect. I had the baby. I had the beautiful house. I had the white picket fence. I had a good job. He had a good job. Everything was great. We went to church. Everything was just wonderful. And then it just became a disaster. And it's like, why did I think what is wrong with my brain? What is love? Why can I not stay? What is wrong with me? But I remember he just didn't meet my needs. And I told you guys last live, I cheated on him and I left and went and moved in with someone else with my young children and left him behind. I was not a good wife at all. But he wasn't a good husband, okay? It wasn't like it was all me, okay? But it was not the fairy tale love that I thought happened. I was like, this is awful. But my third husband, he had his crap straight, okay? When I moved in with Robbie, he had been on his job for like 10 years. He had it together. He had his own house. Like, this was the fairy tale that I thought I needed. He was it. He was a lot better than the last two. So, like, I thought this is it, because the last one had trouble keeping a job. It was very unstable, and I was supporting us. And I was like, I'm the only breadwinner. There's like, it's me trying to be. I was working two jobs. I was teaching aerobics and working at Blue Cross. I had to be at work at 6 o'clock in the morning. I was teaching aerobics before I went to work at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I lived an hour away from the gym and Blue Cross. I was working my butt off. And I had a baby. And I had two babies, because my kids are 17 months apart. So, like, I just got sick of it. I was like, I have no support. So Robbie was the answer. Robbie was the love that I was looking for. Robbie had a full-time job that he had been on for 10 years. He had his own house. Like, he had his crap straight. He had good credit scores, and he had a retirement plan. And the last one didn't have any of that. So Robbie was a lot better than the last one, right? So we did not have a wedding. We did not. I refused to get another wedding dress. And we went to the courthouse and got married. Was it a fairy tale? I'm going to say the first 6 to 7 years of our marriage, I did feel like Cinderella. I did. He put me up on a pedestal. It was a love like I had never experienced. He loved my children. I felt as though it wasn't me pulling all the weight. It was as perfect could be. I felt like Cinderella with him. I did. And then it was like, that 7-year itch that they talk about. Like, the 7 years hit and it went a train wreck. And I'm not going to get into all I did and all he did, but it wasn't like one person did it all. I was completely terrible and he was completely terrible. It's like 7 years hit and we were married for 15 years. But from 7 on, it was not the Cinderella life. It was not. And I thought in my head, that's in that marriage is when I started counseling. Because I was like, something's wrong with me. Like, something's not right. Like, why can't I keep a marriage? What am I doing wrong? And I realized that I really didn't understand what love meant. I did not. I thought love was Cinderella. I didn't understand. Cinderella, I don't think we ever saw Cinderella pregnant, having hot flashes, like having financial problems, like, Ken never cheated on Barbie. Like, you just didn't experience real life in the fairy tales that we grew up with, And it was a letdown for me. And I really didn't know what it meant to be loved. And I didn't really understand what it meant to give love. Do you understand it? Do you still search for your husband to sweep you off his feet and take you into this wonderland where there's roses and butterflies and he's in love with you and I, like do you wish that would happen? Or like if you're a man, do you vision like this Barbie looking wife, like a trophy wife? Like, Barbie didn't have fat on her and Barbie like was beautiful all the time and she had permanent lipstick and permanent mascara and she never had to take her makeup off at night. Like Barbie was permanently beautiful. So are you that man that wished that you had a permanent Barbie? Like did you wake I feel like it's just a woman that did that. I don't feel like men necessarily do what women do. I don't think they think about it. I don't know. I'm not a man, so I can't really answer that question. But when I started counseling, I started realizing what love was. Because I grew up thinking love was a feeling. I wanted to feel the butterflies in my stomach. I wanted to feel my heart flutter. Like when I saw my husband, I wanted to feel all giddy inside. Like I love you, that's what I wanted. And I wasn't getting what I needed. And it just did not it was a disappointment to me. Marriage was a disappointment. It was. As I started counseling, I told you guys before, but when I began to fix myself, I realized there was 4 things that I needed to fix. I needed to fix my spiritual life. I needed to fix my mental well-being. I needed to spiritual, mental, physical. I needed to work on myself physically. Because how can you love when you don't love yourself? You can't. You can't love completely when you don't love yourself. So spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional. I began to work on those 4 things because I realized that I didn't need to work on how that person loved me, but I needed to work on loving someone else because I didn't understand what love meant. I was living this fairy tale love life that I perceived what love looked like. And it was nothing but a letdown to me. And I continued to have failed marriages because I didn't understand what love was. I felt as though I wasn't loved. Because I'm just going to talk about Robbie, but after 7 years, I didn't feel loved. I felt ignored. I felt like my feelings didn't matter. I felt like everything I said was shut down. Like he never took into consideration my feelings. Like what he said went. And it was just like I constantly felt like I was not loved. So when a woman doesn't feel loved or a man doesn't feel loved, what happens? Well, I'll tell you what happened with me is when I didn't feel loved and someone gave me attention, that giddy, lovey feeling came from someone else. That need that I was needing met, that I wasn't getting met by my husband, when some person gave me attention, I would run with it because it gave me that boost of excitement. Like that first feeling when you first start dating someone, that can't wait to see him, can't wait to talk to him, like excitement feeling. That's what I was wanting to feel with my husband. And I didn't feel that way. I mean, as a matter of fact, I couldn't even sit down and like I was ignored. Robbie watched movies nonstop. Robbie never went to bed with me, like even during the week. Like if it was like we had, let's say it's 10 o'clock at night and it was time to go to bed. Robbie didn't go to bed with me. Robbie stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning watching movies during the week. I was not getting my needs met at all. At all. And so it made me sad. It made me depressed. It made me feel like a failure. But see, what I was concentrating on is my needs. I wanted him to meet my needs. I wasn't working on myself. I wanted him to meet my needs. Because I thought in order to feel that giddy feeling, he has to give that to me. He has to be excited to see me, or he has to say, hey, I'm taking you on a date tonight. And that would give me that giddy feeling. Oh, he loves me. That's what I was looking for. And I never got it, ever. We had been married like over 7 years, and it all like just went away. And I couldn't figure out, I just felt unloved. I felt ignored. He doesn't even go to bed with me. Like, why is a man staying up at 3 a.m. on a Wednesday when he has to get up and go to work the next day? I didn't feel loved. So as I started going to counseling and I began to work on myself, and I said, I'm jacked up. Like, I hate everything about me. I hate everything about myself. I need to fix myself. So when I began to start working on myself spiritually, I said to myself, I'm going to read the Bible all the way through. I've never done it, and I'm going to do it. So I went, actually my stepmom, her church put together like that year where you read the Bible all the way through, like they tell you what to read. So she gave it to me. I began to do it every single day. And I remember getting to the love chapter in the Bible. You know, love is patient, love is kind. I wish I could, if someone can find it in the Bible, I can't, I don't want to spend, I have my Bible app and I can't find where it's at. But it tells you, the love chapter tells you what love is. Love is patient. I perceived when I was married to Robbie, I didn't think about love is patient, love is kind. I thought he doesn't love me. He's not making me feel giddy inside. He never shows me attention. Like, that's the kind of love I was looking for. And when I began to read the Bible, to read what does God say about love? And I read the love chapter. And I was like, am I patient? Am I kind? Am I, I started reading it. I started asking myself, hang on. 1 Corinthians. Oh, I knew that. 1 Corinthians 13. Okay, hang on. Oh, shoot. I knew it was 1 Corinthians 13. I don't know why I forgot it. And of course, my phone is just spinning. I know love is not envy. Love is not boastful. I can't pull it up right now. But I began to read that chapter and I was like, what I'm perceiving as love, God does not say it's any of those things. Like, what the crap do I think love is? So I remember going to counseling going, I don't think I know what love is. I don't think what I perceive love is, I don't think it exists. I do not think there is a man out there that can meet my needs. I mean, I don't know. I don't understand. And I began to learn as I began to fix myself. I said, okay, I want to be the best version of Judy. So I need to learn what love is because I have this misconception of what love is. I really do. What I'm wanting doesn't exist. So if what I want doesn't exist, how do I stop the brain from wanting what doesn't exist? Because like my brain thinks that a marriage and a love should look a certain way, you know? So, I told you guys when I started counseling, I went to counseling 3 days a week, and I went 3 days a week for 2 solid years. So I began to learn about myself. And I'm like, where does this misconception come from? And then I realized when I went back to my childhood, because as you begin to work on yourself, it's almost like you got to go from the day you were born. You have to go from the day you were born and go, okay, when I was born, this is what happened. It's like you've got to write a story about your life as you begin to unfold why you do the things that you do. So, why am I desiring this love and where is it coming from? And she would ask me, she was like, when you were a young child, who did you look at as like wanting to be like? Like when you were thinking about a wife, who did you want to be? Was there someone around you, a family member that you looked up to? And I was like, no, it was Cinderella. Like I wanted to be Cinderella. I wanted to be beautiful. I wanted to be like Barbie's figure. I wanted to be, lift up boobs. Like I wanted to be like Barbie didn't have no saggy boobs. That's why I went and got a boob job because Barbie didn't look like that. I had this misconception and I had to go back to my childhood to figure out where this misconception came from. And it started with Cinderella. I really believe it. And, Snow White. And Snow White, what died, I don't remember. She was in the casket and this Prince Charming came and kissed her and she woke up. Like that's what I envisioned. And these men that I married were a bunch of jacklegs. They did not fit the mold of that. And so when I'm forgetting what I've put on. So when I started trying to figure out love and marriage and all this stuff, and I began to work on myself, I realized where all this misconception came from. And I'm like, how do I fix it? Like I desire this and I want this. And like, where's the giddiness come from? And like, this is not what I want. I want the real stuff, like the real marriage. Well, when I married Shane, I was well when I married Shane. And I will be the first to tell you right now that if I was not well, I would have left Shane. Shane is a train wreck. I make him look really good on social media, but Shane is a train wreck. Okay. He is. He is. God love him. He has faults just like me. And when I learned what love is, and I went back to 1 Corinthians 13, I said, okay, I'm going to love this man with all my heart. Love is not giddiness. Love is not your heart pounding like every time you see him. Love is not any of the things that I thought what love was. And I've learned through my marriage with Shane, as a matter of fact, we have been together. Ooh, we've been together 10 years. In June, we'll be married 8 years. I have learned with Shane how to love without wanting to feel like Cinderella. I had to break things down to figure Shane out because he's a straight up weirdo. Okay. He is really weird. He doesn't show love the way I interpret love. And if, like, I told you guys, Shane's not, I receive love when someone goes out of their way to get out. Like when someone gives me a gift, I feel loved. Shane does not give that way. That's not how Shane gives love. So how do I keep myself stable when my needs are not getting met? Like through the way I perceive love. I had to put on different glasses. And I had to learn that Shane doesn't give love the same way I perceive love. And I was missing my blessings on the way Shane shows love to me. Because I was perceiving love is they make me feel giddy inside. They make my stomach, they want to take me on a date, or they bring me roses, or they buy me a special gift. Like that's how I perceive love. And Shane doesn't do any of that. And if I would not have taken off these glasses that I thought love was and put on what love is when you work on yourself. If you want to truly love, you have to work on yourself. Because believe it or not, the problem was within you. It's not Shane. The problem is me. I wear these blinders and I don't see outside the box. Shane doesn't love me. He doesn't bring me flowers. It's freaking Valentine's Day and all these people on social media get flowers. I get nothing. Absolutely nothing. I had to learn that in my Thursday video, I go around and show you my rose bushes. And I had to learn that Shane gives me roses longer than a week or 2 weeks. He doesn't have them delivered. Shane bought me a house that has gorgeous rose bushes everywhere. And I had to learn to put on these glasses and see outside the box. Where I say Shane doesn't bring me home roses, I had to go outside and look at my yard and go, I have roses everywhere that he's given me. Him and I bought this house together with all these rose bushes all over my yard. And I had to look outside the box that my husband does love me. My husband goes to work every single morning so I can have all these rose bushes planted in my yard and give me roses all the time. He gives me red ones. He gives me pink ones. He gives me yellow ones. He gives me white ones. They're all over my yard. And if I wasn't the best version of myself, I would have missed this blessing because I would have been stuck on what love looks like. Because what love looks like with Judy and her old self is different from the love she looks at today, being well. When our husband is rude to us, we want to shoot the middle finger. We want to chew them out. We feel depressed. We let it consume us. If you're a man and you're like, my woman, my wife doesn't show me love at all, because most men receive love through their stomach and their okay? It's usually sexual and through their stomach, meaning They receive love through a good meal. If a woman cooks a good meal, they feel loved. If a woman shows them sexual attention, they feel loved. Women are nothing like that. Women are a different, but women, we have to look at the way your husband receives love and gives love. And women, you have to look at the man. How do they show you love? It may not be through communication. Their communication skills may suck a big old fat meatball sandwich because their communication skills have cuss words in them, or they have negative tone or whatever. And you're like, I hate talking to them. Everything they say is negative. You have to look at the way your spouse shows love, because it's not the way you receive love. But as you begin to be the best version of yourself, go back to 1 Corinthians 13. When we get off this live, go read that and go look what love is. Love is not a feeling. Love is not giddy. The way I know that I love Shane with all my heart, I'm going to tell you how I know. Because I wake up and I try. Let's see, how do I put this? I have never cheated on Shane. I have never come close to cheating on Shane. It's never even gone through this brain of mine. I have never lied to Shane, ever. I have been beside Shane through thick and thin. I have never left him. I have been through even at his worst self, I've stood right beside him. Even when he is a total train wreck to me. And I'm going to tell you, Shane says the most god awful things to me. If I recorded to you what he says to me, you would be like, Shaners, I'm going to whoop your tail if you talk to Aunt Judy like that again. You would be like shocked. My marriage is not perfect. My marriage is just like yours. The fairy tale that you probably see in videos, I try to put the real stuff in there. But if I put the real stuff in there, I would get flagged with what's it called? Not copyright claims. I would get flagged with you're not allowed to cuss on social media. Okay? Like I wouldn't be able to be a creator. They would shut my page down if you heard Shane talk. Okay? I am so well that I'm able to look outside of all that, because that is Shane's struggle. Shane has a short temper. Shane has an ugly mouth. But I'm able to go through counseling when he goes crazy like that. I'm able to go when he like pops off. If your husband or your wife pops off, I'm able to stop and go, I bet his blood pressure is sky high right now because he is blowing his gasket. Do I do that every time? No. There's times I hang up on him. There's times I have to walk away from him because I'm not always that strong. But I have to go, I'm not perfect and he's not perfect. But I know I love him because I continue to work on myself. And I continue to be the best version of Judy and go, how can I deal with this explosion? How can I deal with the F word? Because Shane's not going to change. Your spouse is not going to change. She ain't changing. You have to change to learn to adapt to her. That is love. You know, when you stand up and say your vows, for richer, for poor, in sickness and health, that is love. Is when you love so much, like Larry showing my mom love. My mother was bedridden 11 years on a catheter with feeding tubes for 11 years, having periods, being on blood thinner. And Larry Glasscock stayed beside my mom the whole entire time. That is love. In sickness and in health. Love is not a giddy feeling. Love is not having a wife like Barbie. Love is loving through the thick and the thin. Love is going to counseling, working on yourself. Love is going, okay, my husband is a total train wreck and I need to learn how to deal with him because he makes me feel depressed every time I have a conversation with him. Love is going, okay, I need to fix the way I perceive what he says because everything that he says is negative Nancy. And he makes me want to crawl in a hole and just die. Because everything that comes out of his mouth is negative. Love is when you go, okay, I need to go work on myself because he does not meet my needs. Love is going to counseling and learning on to put another pair of glasses to learn how your spouse is showing you love because his mouth is not it. Okay. If he's negative Nancy, he shows you love maybe because he never has left. Maybe he's never cheated on you. Maybe he's kept a job your whole entire marriage. He shows love by going to work every single day, working for your family. He shows you love by holding your kid's hand in the park. He shows you love by providing a house that has a gorgeous yard or a beautiful creek running through it. And he goes to work every day to pay for that. That's how he shows you love. But when you have your blinders on and you perceive love as Cinderella, you're missing your blessings. And I realized that Shane is really the only person that I've really truly loved because I'm like Forrest Gump and I will run at their first mistake. If they're on drugs, I'm not standing beside them. If they're not keeping a job, I'm leaving. If they're like, I'm not, I worked on myself. I learned what love was. And I've learned that I love Shane. And Shane and our love is not Romeo and Juliet. But I've learned how to deal with Shane. I promise you, there's not another woman that could deal with Shane. And there's not another man that could deal with me. There's not. Love is when you can get through those hard times and not get in left field. Okay, my spouse is sick. This is hard. I got to stick with them. I stood at the altar and made a vow that I would stick with them through sickness and health. And I need to learn from Larry Glasscock. Larry Glasscock is a prime example of loving through sickness. Loving through financial pain. Financial pain can be very stressful, and love can kind of not be shown when you have a lot of financial stress. Love is when your spouse sticks with you through financial stress. That is love. So I've learned what love is. And I've learned that with Shane, I want to be the best version of Judy that I can be. Why? Because Shane makes me want to be a better person. Shane makes me want to be the best version of Judy. He does. I don't want to be a train wreck. I don't want to be in the bed sleeping all the time. I don't want to be sitting in the red chair with the blinds closed crying all day long. I want to be the best version of Judy that I can be. And I work on myself every single day so that I can be the wife that I need to be and show the love, not like Cinderella or well, I don't even know Cinderella's prince. I don't even remember her lover's name, but let's just say Ken and Barbie. I'm not looking for a Ken. I'm looking for Shane. And Shane doesn't show love like Ken did. Ken kept his mouth shut. Okay. Shane is not Ken. Shane can't keep his mouth shut like Ken did. Okay. And maybe your spouse is like Shane and doesn't keep his mouth shut like Ken. Ken's never said a word to Barbie. Ever. Not one word. He just sits there and looks like a trophy husband. All right, guys. Today is Wednesday, is hump day. Sitting it out is being like Judy. Being like Judy, sitting it out, is not understanding what real love is. To fall in love with your spouse again is dancing. Believe it or not, you can fall in love with your spouse without him changing a thing. And the way you fall in love with your spouse without them changing a thing is go work on you. Go work on the way you perceive that person. Talk about the weaknesses. How do I overcome these things that he does that triggers me? Why do they trigger you? You got to go back to childhood to figure out, why do you not feel loved by your spouse? The day that I went to counseling and made a commitment to change my life and begin to mold and fix every single little bitty thing that was wrong with me was the moment I saw love and I'm able to give love with my whole heart. And that is what I call dancing, is being able to give and God talks about that. Give and don't receive. It's better to give than receive. But we want to receive love. We think we give it right. But see, they may not perceive our love. That may not be what they need. You've got to learn what they need in order to meet their needs. But when you stay in your own lane and only worry about what you receive, that's not what God calls us to do. And you're getting it all mixed up. So the best thing you can do today for dancing is to work on you. Love you. My video will come out Thursday around 2:45, 3 o'clock. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for always encouraging me to dance. Believe it or not, I come here because you keep me dancing. You don't realize what you do for me, but you showing up keeps me dancing. It keeps me coming back. And I continue to try to put my all into my lives. I love you guys, and I will see y'all Monday. Bye.